We're at Rams Head Live here in Baltimore, Maryland. This is Starrcast 4. Scott Hudson and Mark Madden with you for today's incredible day. We've had so much news made right here on Fight TV at Starrcast 4. Still to come, the Rhodes family. Cody, Brandy, Dustin are going to sit down and tell all right here on this stage. Also at 7 o'clock tonight, Jim Crockett himself breaks that 30-year silence about the business and the sport of professional wrestling. You don't want to miss that. That's coming up at 7 o'clock. But Mark, right now, we're going to get unhinged.
It's been a day about reinvention here at Starrcast 4. We heard from the Young Bucks earlier and their do-it-theirself rise to stardom. We're going to hear from Cody Rhodes a bit later, one of the founding fathers of AEW. But Jon Moxley was a great performer in WWE, and he left and went to All Elite and to New Japan and became better. Every single facet of what he does, promos, work rate, persona, became amplified, became better. And let's remember, he's only done one interview before today here at Starrcast. We're going to hear stuff we want to know, stuff we need to know, stuff that Jon Moxley's probably been dying to say for quite some time.
He wasn't able to say it when we were in Chicago at Starrcast 3, injured, having the surgery. That got pushed back until right now. Jon Moxley is about to be unhinged. It is indeed our honor and our privilege, Mark, to bring out first the man who will put the questions, put the boots to Jon Moxley. The man.
Nobody better.
Nobody better. He is the one and only. Would you please welcome to Starrcast, Jim Ross.
Thank you very much. If you're not intending to be at this show, you got a chance to leave. Because we're taking off here in a minute, and we got to have you in your seatbelt fastened. Glad you're here. It should be a fun show. I have no script. I have no questions written down. I have no teleprompter. We're calling it in the ring. And because we're not going to be at a loss of things to talk about with Jon Moxley. He's a big-time player. His best days are yet to come. We're going to talk about that. Well, I know you want to know why he left WWE. Why did he choose AEW? There were other choices he could have made. Why is he here? What's he want to accomplish? How do you like watching your wife on TV every Tuesday night? I think it would be pretty cool, quite frankly. So nonetheless, let's get this thing rolling, get our conversation started. I told John before we came out here, it's just like us driving down the road in a car. We're just going to have a conversation and talk about a variety of things. So I hope you'll enjoy it. Thank you again for coming. So I'd like to introduce right now. He's going to be huge, folks. He's got a little Brian Pillman in him. He's got a little Terry Funk in him. He's got a little Stone Cold in him in all the right ways, but he melds it into his own package, his own guy. And I like all those things. I can't take my eyes off him when he's in the ring. He's a can't miss. And Saturday night should be a real can't miss matchup. So without further ado, please welcome AEW superstar Jon Moxley.
For fuck's sake, JR's got like 4 Moscow mules up here already.
I'd like to say, don't worry about the mules. They're right here. Just load the wagon.
I'm glad somebody showed up. I was nervous that nobody was going to be here and then I was going to be all embarrassed. So thank you for coming. It occurred to me I've never done anything where I was on stage alone for this long, so this could be terrible.
I've done that a few times. It's not fun. You get to know everybody by name. Hey, Joe, was that a funny joke? I mentioned on the way out here, there's a lot of things we can talk about. One of my most memorable memories of you was down in Tampa when I would come down there and help Dusty and the guys with TV on that main drag there. What's that street?
Dale Mabry.
Dale Mabry, yeah. And John, we had high hopes for John, and WWE had high hopes for John as well. And he had, remember that issue you had with Regal?
Yeah, I remember
TV?
very well.
I love that.
Yeah.
And boy, that really, you were ready for that moment because it was a moment that you needed to capitalize on because everybody had endorsed you being, this guy's a keeper, and you showed everybody you were the keeper that we thought.
Yeah, I remember that match clearly. That was the last match on the last ever episode of FCW television. Man, it's loud in here. And you and Dusty were on commentary, which was very cool for me. First time you've ever commentated one of my matches. And I remember that whole program really well because it was just me collaborating with Dusty, Regal. And it was like a year-long storyline. It was really, really simple. It was kind of a young lion, old lion mentor-student thing. Really, really simple. He beats the shit out of me. Then I stew about it for like a year. Keep calling him out, calling him out, calling him out. He holds it off. And then I beat the shit out of him. Very, very simple. At the end of the match, it wasn't supposed to be the end of the match. Like I put his head in the turnbuckle and kneed him so hard it ripped his ear off and his ear started bleeding. So this was all, it actually kind of worked out beautifully for the story. So his ear was bleeding and half hanging off, and I'm beating the shit out of him. And the trainer jumps in, and they stop it in WWE for even the slightest bit of blood. So they're putting on the rubber gloves, and they're trying to stop the match. And I'm fucking fuming because I had built it up in my head, this match. I believed, and all my best matches, I worked myself into believing that I truly hate this motherfucker. Like that night when I was wrestling William Regal, I wanted to kill him. And I was there mentally. So this is the biggest match of my life, and this doctor's jumping in for just a tiny little bit of bitch blood. And I was pissed. I'm like pacing back and forth. I'm like, what the hell? Regal just jumps out of the trainer's arms, fucking gloms me. We somehow get to a finish. They like ran all the guys to the back. I kneed him in the face. And it kind of worked out beautifully for the story because I wanted to get that win over him so bad for like a year. And then I never got a chance to because the match got stopped. But I still got to kill him. So it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool ending to that whole thing.
Significant to say it was a big-time moment in your evolution because I just think a lot more people started paying attention to your work because Regal sang your praises, Dusty sang your praises, I tried to chime in, and those heard us talk so much they started paying attention. But the great thing, you deserve the credit because you saw the ball was kind of bounced into your court and you picked it up and you ran with it because these damn opportunities don't come along.
Yeah, William Regal was pretty key in making sure that I didn't get screwed up there down in FCW. That whole run in Tampa, at the time, we were so like, the crew that I hung out with, like me, Seth, Juice Robinson, Corey Graves, we were so like, fuck everybody, like almost like anti-Office, because we felt like outcasts down there in FCW. It's not like it is today. We felt like we were on our own island, nobody was paying attention to us, and we were putting on amazing shows and creating on our own buzz. So we were like, we had a real attitude. But the thing is, it's stressful because you're always wondering like if you never get called up. So, and you're making a little money, but pretty much peanuts compared to what you will hopefully make. So you're like, the stress of not being called up kind of ruins the experience. But looking back now, I'm really proud of like my whole body of work there. And looking back now, I'm like, that was the greatest, funnest time. Just, so yeah.
What does it do to an athlete mentally to know you're still sitting down there? And now the game's changed now because NXT is the third brand. It's not a developmental territory. It's not a territory for beginners, in essence, that make the television show. Those aren't beginners. They're experienced, skilled talents. But sitting there as an athlete, how heavy does it play on your mind to wonder, do you put time limits on it? You say, if I'm not called up in 6 months, I'm going to do something else? Or how do you process all that information while you sit and wait?
I was pretty confident that something was going to happen. You know, they were always. I always had a feeling that it was going to work out. It's just so. I was pretty confident, but you know, you're down there for a long time. But also, I was just trying to make the most of the opportunity. I feel like I got better during that period of time. When I got signed with WWE, I wasn't in a very good place in life, you know, mentally or anything like that. So I was like, all right, this is like a gift from the universe. This is an opportunity. I have to make the most of this. So I went down there and I put in 100% effort in training, getting better, like, and trying to develop and make this WWE thing work. It's funny because everybody, when I first was going down there, a lot of people were like, because you hear people talk shit, and everybody's like, okay, if he can't bleed and swear and do all that shit, he's never going to make it in WWE where he has to clean up his act. Funnily enough, I cleaned it up too much. Looking back, it's funny. So, like, I became so child-friendly that it was ridiculous. But I figured it out, and it turned out to be a good run.
It seemed like the world awakened to you guys, I mean the Shield. Were you involved in the creative of the Shield? Did you have any input in the Shield? Were there other guys that were considered as potential members of the Shield? Let's talk about that period of time, because it seemed like it launched 3 distinctly different guys in 3 distinctly different careers. But the faction made it work to me. How did that come about? Were you involved in the planning of any of that, or did you say, hey, you're booked?
Well, we were just presented with the opportunity. We was like told top secret, like, look, there's a thing, and it's you 3 guys, and we didn't know what it was going to be. I think we found out the night before that we knew we were going to be a group of some sort. I still to this day don't know who came up with the name The Shield, but I remember we found it out in the car, and we're like, The Shield, that's pretty sick. So we don't know but we didn't know what it's going to be. The original idea for it, it was tied to CM Punk. CM Punk was a champion, and it was like he needed heaters to, shield his title, I guess is probably where the name originally came from. And we showed up there, and they had these, they want us to wear these like turtlenecks and combat boots to like, I don't know if those were supposed to look like security guards or what it was. They actually had physical shields for us that said Shield on it, like riot shields, and billy clubs, which would have looked really fucking stupid. One of us would have tripped and fallen getting into the ring. I actually was really into it at first. I was like, look at this fucking thing. Cool. I'm going to whack somebody with this billy club. And then in retrospect, we would have looked really foolish with riot shields and billy clubs. And somebody would have tripped and fallen and gotten into the ring, and that for sure would have been me. So that would have ended my whole career right there. So, but as far as like the tactical gear and all that, and like our entrance was our idea. Once we were like, after that first night, all the kind of ideas were ours. Because we're like, we're like an invading force. Why would we come through the locker room or through the entrance like everybody else? So the entrance was our idea. The tactical gear was like our idea. We went to like, like army surplus stores and started getting all kinds of different stuff. And so originally we were supposed to be with Punk for like the long haul. Me and him and us and him and Paul were kind of like a group for the first few weeks. We even we rode on Punk's bus and hung out with him and stuff, and we were kind of like all together. But I think really quickly, like within the first couple weeks, they saw that this was a thing that had some spark and was going to work. And then they kind of took us away from him and wanted us to be our own thing. So as soon as they saw that it was like, damn, this could be hot shit, I think it was probably Triple H who kind of like took us and tried to make us on our own and take us away from Punk. And then we're off to the races.
I always thought that Shield presentation, just for my taste, needed about 6 more months of hot television together to get everybody to at least one step away from your own individual main event status. I thought it was, like a lot of things that are done in wrestling, cut short. And I've often wondered why that is. Is it the guys in creative get bored with it? Is it the talents within the entity get bored with it? But nonetheless, I don't know what your take on it is. I'd like to know. I thought that you guys had more legs and could have been stronger individually if you had stayed together a little bit longer as in the faction.
The way I think I remember it being told to us was just we ran out of people to work with. I think we beat Evolution pretty definitively in that feud, and after that, we'd been built so strongly as a unit that there wasn't another unit you could put us against at the time. You know, it'd be too hard to build somebody up. And as like 3 singles wrestlers in a group, I don't think we ever successfully got there to where we were all our own characters and we all just happened to be in a group together. Like the Shield was kind of its own character. It was like a 3-headed dog character. The version of the Shield that I liked the best was like the early on Shield, where we just 3-on-1 everybody, beat the shit out of everybody, and all that. That was all our kind of ideas too. The way we'd structure matches to where every time we'd always be 2-on-1 somebody, and as soon as somebody would take somebody out, then the other guy would be back on. So we developed this whole style of like 6-man mayhem that we kind of came up with and perfected, you know, on our own, and that people started to like us just because, you know, we're just 3 young dudes beating the shit out of everybody, and they liked it.
Yeah, what's not to like? You got 3 new guys, a lot of charisma, and they're beating the hell out of people on a nightly basis.
Dude, and you were there. We were pasting these motherfuckers at the beginning because it was told to us. I remember the first night we were attacking Ryback, and I remember CM Punk pulling us to the side and being like, because at this point we were like with him, and him being like, this is probably just paranoia because Ryback is a sweetheart, but he was like, people are going to be told not to sell for you. Somebody's probably in Ryback's ear telling him not to sell for you. So make sure he does. So that was all we needed to hear. I was like, well, fuck him then. So we literally just beat the shit out of him because I'm like, there's 3 of us. But we had that because it was a different, more tense locker room back then. Guys didn't get opportunities as much. If you were in FCW, you had like, your chances of getting out and getting a spot were slim. And if you did, being successful at it and not getting buried and swallowed up really quickly were slim. You had like the top guys, like the Cenas and the Ortons and all them. And for like new young guys to come right into the mix was pretty rare. And we were not going to let it get taken away. I was like, I will. And we really had an all for one for all mentality. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'll fight anybody. I'll fucking fight anybody on live TV if they fuck with my guy or try not to sell us. So I was like, this is our only shot. So we were fucking busting people's nose. I'm swearing way too much. I apologize. That's just how I talk. I can't not swear. But we were like bloodying people's noses and like people were getting upset about it. Like there are people who are complaining about it. Like I won't mention any names, but like there are people who didn't like it. But we were also told like keep doing it. Because it created a good like atmosphere, you know. But then once we started having these matches, then people started to want to work with us, and then they're like, oh shit. So for the first few weeks, we were like people were giving us dirty eyes and their dirty looks, and like these new fucking Shield guys, fuck them.
The big cowboy probably bonus you for laying your shit in. He liked people get kicked in the face. He's the guy that had the famous rule, and I know it to be true. If you lose a fight in our territory to a civilian, meaning a fan, you're fired. Period. No matter who you are, where you are on the card, includes JYD on down. If you go into a bar and get your ass whipped, you're fired. If it was, that didn't happen. Yeah, oh yeah, it was real. But we had Dr. Death, we had Duggan, we had the Steiner brothers. Our guys didn't lose many fights. And they enjoyed having them. That's before all the ambulance chasing lawyers that are looking for 30% deal on a lawsuit. So in one era, that would have been extremely well perceived. I can see in the WWE locker room at times, sometimes I sensed a softness there because they're more into stylistically wrestling than the fundamental toughness, intensity of what you bring. So my question in a roundabout way, have you always been defiant as a kid? Were you defiant? Did you have a chip on your shoulder when you were a kid? Were you hard to manage? Did you get in trouble at school? When did this shit start?
Kind of all of the above, but I don't really see it like that. Like the other night I did a promo on TV and I was talking about the guys who come up to you and because they would always say shit like this to me, like The Office and WWE. They always say like, "Well, he's a different type of cat." That's like their phrase, different type of cat. And I'd be like, "What does that mean? Like, are you insulting me? What does that fucking mean?" Like, I'm the kind of guy that like, if you tell me like, okay, we're gonna do it this way, or you tell me to do something that doesn't make any sense to me, and I go, well, that's dumb, why don't we just do it this way? If your answer is, well, that's just the way it's always been done, or that's the way we do it, that's not good enough for me. Okay, I'm like pragmatic and sensible. I wanted to rename the name of this show from Unhinged to Sensible and Pragmatic, the Jon Moxley story. Because if it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not just gonna go with it. Yeah, school didn't make any sense to me. Made no sense at all. Like, I wasn't dumb. Like, school was pretty, like, I always got good grades in like the lower grades. Like, I had like straight A's because I could spell and do arithmetic and whatever. But once I got into like junior high, I really started to hate school. I hated the people. I had very poor social skills, which are a little bit better now. But I hated the people. I just hated this concept. It just didn't make any sense to me. Like, you got to come here and do these classes, learn about the stuff that I'm never going to use and whatever. Like, I just had no interest in it. Wrestling made sense to me. So like, when I was like, oh, I want to be a wrestler, so I'll go to wrestling school instead of regular school, that made sense to me. So there was a point where I just stopped going to school because I was just like, this is, just didn't make any sense to me.
Right. Well, see, your philosophy is really old school in as much as that I remember sitting in on booking meetings back in the 70s and the 80s with Watts, and he would bring let's say, for example, he'd bring a top heel into the territory, right? And oftentimes he brought guys in to specifically work with Bill. And when you're a 6'3", 300-pound babyface, everything's not automatic. The rules are a little different. So he's got to have a heel that's convincing, realistic, has good psychology. But what I saw in all those guys he booked and brought in, they all had a say in their program with Bill. So in other words, they would tell Bill what they did best, and this worked here, this worked in Portland, this worked in wherever, and give him the ammunition to create more like stuff. I remember a story I heard when I first got in the business with the Kentuckians and the Assassins were two great tag teams back in the 60s, and they're on YouTube and all that good stuff. But they took the same program to a variety of territories. Including the Carolinas and including Kansas City and including Oklahoma territory, among others. And they had their way. Week 1, we do this. Week 2, we do this. We finally crossed paths in week 4. They do the promo here, we do the interruption. They had it all down. So if you're a booker and you know that these guys are comfortable with this program and the fact that they're not going to get paid, but only on what they draw. So the commission salesperson in you would be motivated. I can make more money if I can put more asses every 18 inches. So that's how guys work. And John's thought is I don't know how many guys his age even think this way. You should have a say in your creative because you're either going to be successful or you're going to die. If I have a chance of dying on commentary, which I've had plenty, I want to at least have a little say in what I'm saying and what I'm seeing. And I think that's what the fans deserve, our own instincts. So I admire that trait. And, I don't know, I think that's a lost art. I think a lot of guys, they're either in their comfort zone, John, or they don't give a shit. The money's so good, they're not going to shake things up. Is that because they've hit their comfort zone? Are you just a different breed of cat? Is there anybody else that you know that's kind of like you that would like to be able to kind of call their own shots?
I mean, it's really easy to get into a comfort zone because, you can get really, in other places, you can just kind of get brainwashed to like, this is how it is. And especially, when you start making a little bit of money, you start trying to like buy a house and pay for your kids' college or whatever, people need to spend their money on. You start looking at it like more like a job. And I never want to have to look at it like a job again. Yeah. I think with me, a lot of it is just like my personality just doesn't fit there. Yeah. And they know it. Like they always, like when they say the different type of cat stuff, I think that was always kind of put me in my own little world. Because they know I was never just going to be like super Mr. Go along with everything. And like, not that I'm being difficult or anything. Like I'll tell a story, I've never told this story in public before. So I'll give you on Fight TV something good. So, and a lot of this is just me being like, I can come off weird. And it's like in junior high and shit, they try to like diagnose me with stuff and like put me on pills for like social this or that, or that, I can come off a little weird. Sometimes people don't know how to take me. Like, I don't mean to, I've realized it later in life too, especially since I've been with my wife, who's the most outgoing, most easy to talk to, disarming, engaging person in the world. I'm the exact opposite. And she'd be like, when we first got together, she'd be like, I'm amazed at how you're so comfortable with making other people uncomfortable. Like, you can just sit in a room if somebody walks in next to you and sits in catering, and you can just not say anything, and you don't feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, why should I feel uncomfortable? She's like, because nobody's saying anything. I'm like, I don't have anything to say. Whereas she would be like, so how are you? And she would like make a conversation. Sometimes I'm just in my own head, just looking at the birds or whatever. So I can, and I've tried to get better at that over the years. And actually being in WWE and, learning how to do like Make-A-Wishes and even just doing like meet and greets and stuff, that was hard at first. Because we went from being complete nobodies to within a few months, all of a sudden we're going to signings at malls and we're the fucking Backstreet Boys. And I got all these, and I'm like, I didn't know, I'm like, hey, what's up? I don't know, So I learned how to, get better over the years. But also, now I'm getting older and I don't give a fuck anymore. So if you don't like me, whatever. The point is, so this is a pay-per-view. I believe I won the United States Championship. Either won it or defended it. I think I won it on this night. And you know how you're like, you're in the moment, you're in the zone, you talk, you say things to yourself, you say things out loud. Like if you're shooting basketball, you'd be like, that's right, get in the hoop, motherfucker, yeah, all right. So especially when you're really in the zone and you're amped up and you're feeling the moment, you should want to be there in a wrestling match. If you're not, you're not where you need to be. So anyway, win the match, whatever, ref raises my hand and I say, give me my fucking belt. Blatantly. Ref gives me the belt. Because I'm hyped up. And I said, give me my fucking belt. They cut it on the delay. I had no idea I said this. Because I'm just, how you're just talking, Like, I'm saying it to myself. I'm not, like, saying it on the mic, But I said very clearly on camera, give me my fucking belt. And we're pretty new at this point. So I get to the back, and everybody's, like, a little weird. I could sense some weird energy. I remember Road Dogg coming up to me, he goes, did you say fuck out there? And I went, I didn't cut a promo. And he goes, no, like in the ring. I'm like, I don't think, maybe, I don't think so. He's like, oh, and he walks away. I didn't think anything of it. The next day, somebody comes up to me. I won't drop any names, but a higher up type comes up to me and he goes, so we need you to wanted me to go into the truck, like the production truck, and apologize to those in the truck because they had to hit the button for the 5-second delay because that's so hard. But they wanted me to go in and apologize to the people in the truck because I swore on camera. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was totally like, I have no problem with that. Like, sure, oh, my bad. Like, I apologize. I don't remember. I guess it just slipped out. Sorry, it will never happen again. So I go into the truck. They make me watch it. So I have to sit down like I'm being punished. They put it on, and I'm like, I bet I didn't really say it. Well, let's find out. And I was like, oh, I so totally said it. Just blatant. But I was like, so I'm totally admitting fault and apologizing and like bound. I'm like, totally my bad. It'll never happen again. I don't know what happened. Just came out. I was just in the moment. I didn't, I'm new. I'm not used to all these cameras picking up every little thing. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like I apologized to what I legitimately thought was like a sincere, perfect apology. So I leave. A little bit later, same person comes up to me and he says, he pulls me aside, all serious. He goes, I don't think that was the right kind of apology for the push we want to give you. And I was like, what do you mean? I totally apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Whatever. And he's like, look, I know, this is the first time I heard this. I know you're a different type of cat, but you gotta, whatever. And I was so confused because I was like, what do you mean? I totally apologized. But now, like looking back years later, I must have just come off like a dick. I didn't mean to, but I must have. But I think that was like a pivotal moment where they were like, kind of fuck this guy, Where that's how they looked at me. However they saw me, that's how they looked at me. And probably still to this day, I don't know what it is. I just,
Well, it's called communication. Sometimes they're not.
And I could be a very poor communicator, so.
Yeah, they're not very good at it. I got called in one time. We had a hot thing going on Raw with Coach. I know that sounds oxymoronic, a hot thing going with Coach. But, he was learned to be a heel and all this stuff. So we got this argument on air about something. And I said, boy, you're going to get in trouble if you keep talking like that. So all of a sudden, that became a racial issue. I'm thinking, what? I had to go to Vince's office with he and Stephanie. And I had to watch the tape again. You don't have no franchise in this deal, pal. And, I had to apologize for my racial epitaph. I called him boy. Not, hey, boy. It was, boy, you better watch that. And it's a way of breaking you down sometimes. It's a way of where you question your own integrity or your sanity or your skill level, and I detested that. It's a poor way of motivating talent. Whether you're an athletic talent or you're an artistic talent, you still have to be motivated. And I think that's what John experienced, the same thing that a lot of people there have. If they believe they couldn't control you, they went out of their way to make sure that you knew that they were watching your ass. Every move you made.
Yeah, it feels like high school.
What?
It feels like high school.
Yeah.
Like you're afraid of like getting in trouble or some shit. Like,
what do you think
weird.
was the breaking point where you knew? Was there a day? Was there a night? Was there a TV? Was there a conversation? Was there anything singularly that you can think of that was the tipping point? You said, okay, that's it. When I get an opportunity, I'm leaving.
Well, for a long time, Because I really tried to like, and the funny thing is, they think I'm some kind of rogue dickhead. I was like the best employee. I never missed a town. I made like 1,000 shows straight. I did all the media. I never said no to anything. I was like, all right, well, I knew I wasn't gonna get like anointed with the golden push or whatever, but I was like, well, I'll just nose to the grindstone this so much, you know, that that was my mentality. And I thought that was working for like a long time, you know. And people started telling me things like, dude, you wrestled more matches than anybody this year. And then like the next year, they're like, you wrestled more matches than anybody 2 years in a row, just an absurd amount of matches or whatever. And I'm like, really? Huh, I guess so. Because I just was lucky enough to not get hurt or whatever and just kept going and going. But yeah, I pushed it so hard that my body started really breaking down like pretty badly. But I just kept going. And allowed to travel, bumps, whatever, the stuff. Because, I mean, they had me go through like 2 tables every fucking night on all these house shows. And then I wouldn't be booked on a pay-per-view, and I'd be like, what the fuck? But I pushed it really hard to where, like, I just kind of got just brain dead. To where I was just like, saving money, making towns, and it just became like a job. Like clock in, hit the thing, do the thing, and once I kind of realized, like, okay, once as a babyface, I just completely became like piss warm, and just realized I was this goofball thing, and just how they saw me, and that took a while to realize because I would see myself a different way. And eventually, once I realized, like, all right, the babyface run has hit as high as it's gonna go, but I wanted to turn heel like forever. I pitched it forever, thinking it would, and then it just went, it took so long, but I kept thinking like, okay, it's all gonna change when I turn heel. Because in my head, I'm gonna be this violent, sadistic motherfucker. So I'm thinking like, it's all gonna be good one day when I turn heel. So I'm just waiting for the right time. It's gonna happen one of these times. But there's always like a Shield reunion or this or that or not the right time. I pitched for me and AJ Styles to do a double turn, which I still think would have been awesome. So I kept thinking that would be like the saving grace. That ended up being the worst thing ever. I don't know why I was naive enough to think like, oh, if he saw me as this goofball idiot, as a good guy, he wouldn't see me as a goofball idiot as a bad guy. Because forgive me for thinking that a goofball idiot bad guy couldn't draw any money. Apparently they thought that it would, whatever. But yeah, I was just grinding, brain dead for like a long time. So then I tore my tricep when I finally got hurt. Foolishly, I worked on it for 2 months with a torn tricep because I didn't know the extent of the injury. So it was all ballooned up and like I couldn't bend it or whatever. So I walk in and I go, what the fuck's wrong with my arm? So for about 2 months, we just drain about this much fluid out of it with a needle every night before I wrestle. And I'm going to Europe, Abu Dhabi, like all over the place. And it just starts getting worse and just hurting more, and my arm starts atrophying, and I'm like, I'm starting to get really fucking miserable and just like trying to figure out what's wrong with my arm. Finally, I get it like properly diagnosed. You got a torn tricep, got to go have surgery. And surgery, the repair itself went perfectly. They did say, though, they're like, oh, we found some, like, infection in there, and it was what's called MRSA. It was the first time I heard that. They're like, so, yeah, when you were getting it drained every single night, that was probably where you picked it up. But so I had to be on a bunch of antibiotics or whatever. And then a few weeks later, there was still some left in what's called a bursa sac in your elbow, and that's what exploded out of my elbow. That was January of 2018. So I had to go in for surgery again to clean out all this infection. That was the gross picture that they put on the Countdown show. That was actually from 2018. But then the same thing happened again, like almost 2 years later, because there was just still just a little tiny bit left in there that had just been stewing forever. So anyway, while I'm off, I was thinking like, I checked out mentally. I was just like, I'm done with this shit, because I was just in so much physical pain and just mental that I was like, all right. I was actually relieved to be able to go home and be hurt. Like for the first month, I was like, this is great. I'm gonna watch fucking Family Guy and get drunk all day. This is great. And it ended up being a long recovery process, but it was like July where I started to realize like I was not excited to come back, like at all. I was thinking like, and I talked about this in other shows, you know, like that's where I realized I was like getting excited about wrestling again once I got healthy. But I was like, oh man, do I really got to go back to WWE though? Can I go to like fucking CZW or something? I remember I was training with Joey Mercury, who was at Ring of Honor at the time. And he was telling me like, yeah, we just sold out Madison Square Garden with New Japan and Ring of Honor, man. We got all this stuff going on. He was telling me about it. And I was like, damn, man, can you take me with you? Because I got to go back to WWE, damn it. And I was like picturing like all these terrible ideas they were having for me, and it was just making me like incredibly anxious. I was like, oh God, and but I was like, all right, I still got that heel turn on the horizon. That's my I'm gonna give him one last shot. I got this, heel turn's coming. That gets put off and put off and put off. Eventually do it. That goes to shit real quick, but it was, I knew I was gone in the summer while I was off, but I was like, I knew I wasn't gonna leave early. I wasn't gonna deal with getting in legal shit. I knew I was gonna ride out the contract, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this, if this heel turn goes good, and you know, it could be, we'll see. But I was being optimistic. The whole time though that I was going like, the whole time from the time I came back to about the beginning of the year, I knew I was leaving, but I was like pissed about it. I wasn't like excited to leave yet. I was like bitter about it, because I'm like, I can't believe they're gonna make me leave. They're gonna make me walk away from all this money. I can't believe that. Can we not just write one good storyline? Can we not write one good promo? Does everything have to be fucking stupid? Does everything have to make me look like an idiot? Like, for fuck's sake, you're gonna make me walk away from all this fucking money. Because it's not like I didn't want that money, you know? I was like, yeah, I want it, but I'm not doing that shit again. I'm like, so I was like pissed. I'm like, I can't believe they're so fucking incompetent that they're gonna make me walk away from all this money. Jesus Christ, I know I gotta go back to the Indies. Fuck it, let's go. After about January 1st, because I remember me and Renee went on a hike to Turtle Head Peak. It's in Red Rock Canyon. The night before, you know, I was all bitching about the same shit I've been bitching about all the time. And I was like, all right, tomorrow we're going to hike. Starting this year off good. Because January 1st of 2018, I woke up with the fucking alien head in my arm. That's what that picture on the countdown show was. So I was like, okay, 2018 sucked. 2019 is going to be good. We're starting it off with a hike, fresh air. It's going to be good. And, you know, you clear your head, you start talking or whatever. And it was like, I'd already known I was going to leave, but it's like, that was the day I was like, I started to think about what it would actually look like. I'm like, okay, I'll go to Japan. I don't know where in Japan, but one of them, there's a bunch of companies in Japan. I'll go over there. I'll go back to the Indies. And I'll just like make my own schedule. Oh, that'd be sweet, because I'll be able to make my own schedule. Dude, and I was like, man, we could have free time. We could schedule a vacation for once, actually. This is going to be great. And I started to get excited about it. I'm like, that's when I was like, oh, I'm leaving. It's going to be awesome. And then at that point, I got excited about it. And then, and that was before the AEW thing even happened.
How big a player was, I mean, it's kind of an obvious answer, I guess. Tony Khan, your biggest influence in coming to AEW, your being able to interact with the owner, is that important to you?
Can you say that again?
Was
loud.
Tony Khan an important element in convincing you to sign with our company? He was to me, I'll tell you that. I loved his enthusiasm and his passion, and he's a smart son of a gun for somebody that has not been on the wrestling radar. Was he obviously very critical in you deciding to make this move to AEW?
Yeah, he was a part of it. He definitely could have fucked it up. If he'd have shown up at my house and been like, "Oh, this guy's an idiot. I'm not gonna work for him," then you know. But he was. It was very apparent that he was a huge wrestling fan, and you know, he could sit there and talk with you about ridiculous, obscure shows and whatever, and he gets like excited about stuff. Like he gets like little kid excited, where he'll be like, "Dude, we could do this idea. It's gonna be sick," you know. And you're like, "Calm down." And a lot of the stuff, just the stuff that I like that Tony said, because he's like, "Yeah, we're not gonna do like a house show schedule," and he's like, "Yeah, it doesn't make any sense." And he explained mathematically, because he's good with numbers and stuff, I'm not. He explained why financially that's outdated and doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, "Thank you. I've been saying that for years," right? And there was a few things where he's like, "Oh yeah, you know, we're looking at doing this or whatever. It doesn't make any sense to do this." And I'm like, "Thank you. I've been saying that for years." So I was like, "Okay, I think this guy actually knows what he's doing." You know, so like between all the key players of the people I talked to, a lot of the people, when I walked into Double or Nothing, so much of the locker room and the production and office and stuff I never even met. Some I had met, but some I hadn't, you know.
They booked your debut perfectly. I don't think you could have had a better debut. You know, I knew you were coming to work here, and I was excited about it. But for some reason, in my haste of working new partners and new production people and all this stuff, I forgot that you may or may not be at that show. So when you did your walk-in, your run-in, whatever, it resonated. It was a great way to be introduced. It showed your attitude. It showed that you're a player. They got respect for you. I just love that. That's got to be another one of those good moments for your career. When you think back at it, that was a hell of a good night for Jon Moxley. Is that our cue to leave?
Well, it was a good night.
We're one mic down. Yeah, it was a good night. It was that was a really pretty indescribable, surreal feeling to be in another ring besides WWE, a big sold-out arena like that. And you know, Jon Moxley wasn't a famous name, so to be in an arena full of people and they were chanting Moxley, which was like mine, that felt like me, like my ownership. That was like just such a surreal cool moment, you know.
I'd probably two final questions here. What do you hope to accomplish here? What do you, as a pro? I mean, obviously, we all want to earn a good living and save some money and pay our taxes and do the things that reasonable citizens should do. But from a performer standpoint, is there a bucket list of guys here that you want to check off, that you want to have programs with, or kind of if you're booking yourself, what direction would you go in? Babyface, heel, where would you be?
Well, I'm not going to spoil it, so you know I won't reveal too much. But the cool thing about what we're doing now is like you can do long-term storytelling, and we have long-term plans that we're actually going to like stick with. And there's already like little hints and little clues and stuff that are being dropped that nobody knows yet. That months later they're going to look back on and be like, oh, like the stuff like that's already happening. Oh, cool, another mic. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. A lot of it is kind of like I don't know. I'm still almost kind of finding my footing as like as a character, and like just kind of figuring it out.
Are you worried about being either a clearly defined baby face or a clearly defined heel? Does that matter? I told guys this is my opinion. Just become a star. Get over. And the audience will figure out where they're going to play you. But get over is the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, the attitude has been kind of like we're going to kind of go with like shades of gray kind of thing. I'm always better, always more comfortable as an antagonist, I think. If people want to cheer me, cool. But I don't want to change what I'm doing to like try to you know, I don't want to come out and sing a song and dance or whatever. I just want to beat the shit out of people. I just want to try to fuck people up. Like, I think if there's one thing that I think I can bring to the table in AEW to make sure we have, you know, on the menu is, like, I'm trying to, like, fight people. I'm trying to hurt people. I'm trying to come with the attitude of, this isn't like a song and dance performance, you know, like, and there are, you know, there's all kinds of different styles. There's a whole bunch of different styles and different kinds of presentation in AEW. And, you know, I think over time as a company, we'll kind of define our product as a whole a little more. But right now, I want to be the guy that, if we're in a match, I'm trying to hurt you. Like I heard Chuck Liddell say one time in an interview, he's like, dude, like when I got in a cage with this dude, I'm trying to kill him. Like I'm not trying to score points. I'm trying to fucking kill him. And it, like, really, like, I like that mentality, you know, for professional wrestling. Like,
Kenny Omega made a comment that I picked up on a Wednesday night show in this video where he said that he questions the fact that you're actually angry or frustrated. It's a lights out match because you didn't really expect that you could chain wrestle with me. And I thought that is a little bit of a, you know, a little office here. I just don't sense that a lights out match is going to be a chain wrestling event anyway. But did you hear that? Did it resonate with you? Or was that just me?
oh yeah, and I get to beat the shit out of him tomorrow night. So I take him down, I'll choke him out, I'll hit him over the head with a fucking pipe, I'll do whatever I want. I was mad because, you know, technically it's not going to count or whatever. But it's like, it counts. We all know it counts. It's on pay-per-view. That's bullshit. It counts.
Finally,
it's about me being like, dude, I don't like that you're trying to, like, you know, I don't like that you're trying to keep me out of the win column and away from your championships and, like, kind of try and keep me over here in my little box, like, oh, you're the king of the lights out match or whatever. Like, you know, like, what you don't think I can kick Chris Jericho's ass too? I'll kick Kenny Omega's ass and then kick Chris Jericho's ass. You know what I mean? You try, like, I don't like, you know, I don't know. I didn't like the, gave me this doesn't count on the wins-loss records. Gave me a little bit of a weird feeling, but we all know it counts because it doesn't. These championships don't mean shit. These records don't mean shit. The strength of competition. I don't watch college football. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm the baddest motherfucker in this game. Produce somebody who can kick my ass. That's all I'm asking. Then we'll talk.
Well, finally, on a calmer note, I'm proud of your success your wife is having. She was always one of my favorites there. I thought she got drew the short straw. They threw her on Raw without any significant training, without any help, largely because she was a very attractive, articulate, intelligent female. And that's not how you book people. And now she's at Fox. Renee's in the right role, doing what she does better than anybody else. And why were the Fox people the first to see that? Because they wanted to be objective and put people in the right spot. So I'm proud of your wife, and I've always pulling for her, and she's working with a great company. And I will predict this: you haven't got to agree or not, it doesn't matter. She'll be a Fox employee longer than she'll be a WWE employee. Mark my words.
Yeah, the world is her oyster right now. She's so great at what she does, just such a great personality. I was so proud of her for hanging in there during that year because, dude, that job is so hard. That is not an easy job. You think it's just talking about wrestling, calling the action. You got 3 people talking. You got people in your headsets. You got Vince in your headset. I'll let her tell the story one day of, you know, the things that were said in the headsets, to tell her to say this, say that, lay out. So basically it's like you hire her to be on air to be her great personality, and then you tell her everything to say. So that's not her being her personality. I still think she did a hell of a job. I was very proud of her. So
I was too, yeah.
But she's going to do good at whatever. Just put her on camera, let her be herself. It's money.
I used to text her during Raw. I'd say, try this. Say, consider this as an adjective. as a way of helping her. And when I was still with the company, I felt like it was my obligation to play it forward to the other announcers, even though I was persona non grata. It's funny that the announcers wanted my feedback, but nonetheless, she's a real keeper, and it's interesting. Do you guys have anything? You guys converse about other stuff besides wrestling? What do you talk about? Yeah, what is you guys?
Oh, we talk about all kinds of stuff. Yeah, a lot of times, you know. Well, she's got all the dirt over there. I got all the dirt over here. So, you know, there's a lot of dirt that's got to be talked about. And I know everything about everything because Renee is such a great personality and she's so easy to talk to that everybody spills all their dirt to her, which then she spills to me. So I know some shit. But yeah, we you know, talk about all kinds of stuff. Try to watch a little TV, relax. You know, just she's just my favorite person to hang out with.
Closing this thing out. Have you had a more, I know what the term, the word is I want to use. I don't know if it's significant, important, momentous, whatever. Can you remember the last time you had a match that meant more to you than what you're going to do tomorrow night?
It's been some time, you know, probably like the first match I had outside of WWE. It was in Japan against Juice Robinson, and I was like, I had no idea how this is gonna go. I was like, I can't even picture it. I don't like. I know who. So I was like, I'm just gonna completely rely on instincts and see what happens. And voila, you know, you have. It's just the way I am. It's the way I wrestle, the way I do most of everything. Aggressive, violent, angry, physical. And I'm like, 2 minutes into the match, I was like, oh, the light bulb went off. I'm like, this is what I used to do all the time. But I was like, I knew that was like that was a big night for me as far as like, you know, personally. So this is similar because this is like I'm being put in a position to where to deliver a level of violence in this match. The lights out match is the ultimate ending kind of thing, and I'm sure me and Kenny will face off many times over the years. But a lot of times these matches are billed as you know, hell in a cell and shit like that, and it's like I'm being asked to deliver the goods on the whatever you want to call it, whatever term you want to use, violence, whatever, you know, and I'm going to deliver it. So, whether it kills me or kills him, you know, it's going to happen. So,
folks, it's going to be great. We appreciate you all being here this afternoon. Thanks for coming out. I enjoyed listening to Jon's stories. He's a big difference maker for us. So let's hear it one last time for Jon Moxley and AEW. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. I'm glad people showed up. 'Cause, yeah.
Back at Starrcast 4, and what a monumental, newsworthy, momentous interview Jim Ross just wrapped up with Jon Moxley. Organic, intense, from the heart from Jon.
Can you feel it, Scott Hudson? Wrestling's not being run by suits anymore. It's not being run by men behind desks. It's not being run by script writers. It's being run by guys like Jon Moxley taking control of their own careers and their own characters. They're making the most of it, and we're seeing the results in AEW. You heard some of what goes into that tonight, right here at Starrcast. Loved what Moxley had to say. Jim Ross with a great job on the call, as always. And just around the corner, it's going to be more of the same. The family that is revolutionizing wrestling, the Rhodes family. Cody, Dustin, and Brandy.
That's coming up next, top of the hour. Kenny McIntosh from Inside the Ropes on YouTube is going to go Inside the Roads. That's coming up next. And don't forget at 7 o'clock tonight, 30 Years of Silence, broken, right here in Baltimore at Starrcast 4 on Fight TV. We hear from the man himself, Jim Crockett, along with David Crockett. They're going to tell you everything you want to know about what happened in '88 with the buyout. And before that, I can't wait for that one. I can't wait for Inside the Roads. Those are all coming up next here at Starrcast 4.